Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Tanya Fox, and you are listening to Fox Talks Business After Hours. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about having a bookie. Now, I know a lot of you are like, ooh, I could use myself a bookie. Well, I say that because it's a little bit more interesting than saying bookkeeper. Now, when I say bookkeeper, I'm hearing already there's some groans out there of, oh, this subject. I know it's a boring subject. I'm going to try to make it interesting for you, but it is really, really important. So, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about what is the difference between an accountant and a bookkeeper, when to hire, how do you pick one, and do you actually need an accountant? So, let's get right to it. Bookkeeping and accounting are both essential business functions, but there is a difference. Bookkeepers are typically responsible for recording financial transactions on a daily basis, while accountants are usually the ones that do your tax classifications, analyzations, summarizations for your year-end taxes and all of the forms that the governments need. Now, we can't get away from needing to do those government forms, so this is a subject that we kind of have to pay attention to, no matter how boring we might think it is. But there are some fun things that you need to look out for. So let's try to keep it interesting. So grab yourself a cup of coffee, a piece of paper, sit down, and let's figure out how you can get yourself a bookie, because that's just more fun to say. Now, accountants and bookkeepers, education-wise, accountants usually will have a university degree and be required to maintain continuing education to keep their designation. So all those fun little initials that are at the back of their name, there's certain requirements that each of those initials have for them to keep that designation. So depending on where you live, those can all change, but you can easily just Google it up and be able to see what designation they belong to and what are the requirements for that. And that is kind of the boring part, so I'll let you do the research on that one. Bookkeepers can have anything from a high school diploma and higher. So the education and continuing education really aren't as stringent on them because they typically don't really hold any designations. So there is can be that sort of big gap between the two of them. But that doesn't make a bookkeeper any less important than an accountant. Now that we know kind of the difference between an accountant and a bookkeeper, I'm really going to concentrate this episode a little bit more on bookkeepers because they're the ones that you're going to see more often. An accountant typically, because they obviously have higher designation, higher education, they also have a higher fee. And they're not necessarily what you need to help you run your day-to-day. Now, you can have your accountant do this, but typically it'll kind of get farmed off to somebody lower in the firm that does the data entry stuff. So it's important to know the functions of a bookkeeper. Now, there are two sort of typical bookkeepers that I see in my industry. There is just a regular bookkeeper, and then there's what they call a full charge bookkeeper. So a full charge bookkeeper is somebody who handles the full cycle duties of a business. So they would be handling your accounts receivable, your accounts payable, your collections, your bank deposits, your bank reconciliations, monitoring your cash flows, doing monthly statements, your payroll, your GST submissions, whether those be monthly or quarterly or yearly. They would also be doing your source deductions, and at the year end, usually would prepare your T4s as well. The other bookkeeper is usually typically sort of what I call sort of a monthly bookkeeper. So this is somebody who isn't necessarily an employee. Usually a full charge bookkeeper will be somebody that's on your payroll. So they're an employee of yours. Whereas the other bookkeeper is somebody that you would have in contract. So they might still handle all of the data entry, but maybe they don't do the collections of your accounts receivable. They might not be the ones who are actually physically paying the bill, but they are tracing where all of those payments are coming from. They are monitoring your cash flow, doing your bank reconciliations, and still providing you with monthly statements. They just aren't necessarily sending out all of the invoices and stuff like that. So there's a little bit less to that. And this monthly bookkeeper is usually where most people will kind of start. So those are sort of the two different bookkeepers that you'll typically see. There are more, but those are the two that you need to pay the most attention to. So one of the questions that I get asked the most is, when do I hire a bookkeeper? When do I need one? Well, you know what? You need one when you look at your books and sigh. That's when you need one. It's not interesting. It's not for everybody. I started out and went to university and got my degree in accounting. It's something that I loved. I love pushing buttons. So a calculator seemed like a good thing, and an accountant pushes a calculator a lot. So bing, bang, boom, there was my career decision. And look, when I was young, I wanted to be a cashier. My brother was the one who wanted to be the astronaut and the lawyer and all of that other stuff. I had more simple aspects of what I wanted out of my working career. But I decided to go into accounting because I loved it. I really thought it was very interesting. So I ended up going into the government and got a job as an auditor, which I hated. So got out of that. And then I sort of fell into a job doing bookkeeping because I had my accounting experience, but couldn't find a job in that field. So I kind of went into doing monthly bookkeeping and really found a passion for it. I loved the day-to-day stuff more than just seeing everybody at the end of the year. So I kind of stuck with it, and I've been doing it for over 20 years now. I've had my company, and I love it. I do it for all of my companies, which is a godsend to my husband because he, like many people, cannot stand crunching numbers. It drives him crazy. He hates doing data entry. It's not his thing, so he's more than happy to just hand the reins over and let me do it. So the other times is you might really not mind doing the books, you might not mind doing the data entry, but you might just find that it's taking away valuable time that you need to be focusing in other areas of your business. So whether that's meeting with customers, whether that's being out on the floor, whether that's just coming up with new innovations for your industry, this might be where you need to focus. And maybe the only time that you have is those hours that you spend doing data entry. And also, one of the other areas that I say, if you're really wanting to have more help understanding your cash flows and areas that you can improve in your business, so whether that be to more streamline your expenses, whether that's to raise your income a little bit more, or whether you just want help understanding what a profit and loss statement is and what the hell the numbers actually mean. Because I do get that. Hey, I get clients that will sit down and go, I don't understand what any of this means. Like, am I making money? Like, can you just tell me that? Like, is this a good thing? Can you just, you know what? Just highlight the happy stuff. And I'm happy to do that. So know that if you don't like doing it, it's time to hire a bookkeeper. If you need more time to concentrate on other areas, hire a bookkeeper. If you need more help understanding exactly what your money is doing or not doing for you, it's time to hire a bookkeeper. So, how do you pick one? Look, this is an easy process, and I see so many businesses make the mistake of just flipping through the phone book and going, this one looks good. Don't do that. Put the brakes on if that's what you're thinking of doing. Or if you have somebody who is in your family who says, oh, I do this for my job, I can do it for you. Please put the brakes on. Do not do that. I've seen it way too many times, even in my own family, where people have said, oh yeah, I do accounts receivable and payable. I could do your books for you. No, not the same thing. Being a secretary is not the same thing as being a bookkeeper. You need to find somebody who's qualified. So let's get to it. How can you pick? I'm going to tell you some ways that you need to do. You need to find somebody first and foremost who has attention to detail. I always say if your bookkeeper is not annoying you, they are not working hard enough. You need to find somebody who is willing to ask you a ton of questions, because asking questions means they're getting to know more about you and more about your business, and that is crucially important from your bookkeeper. Ask for a referral from a trusted source. So whether this be another person in business that you know, another business owner that you look up to, whether this be if you already have an accountant that does your year-end taxes, but you're looking for somebody for a little bit more, ask them. They will usually have bookkeepers that they work with, that they work well with, that they know knows what they're doing and could be beneficial to your business. So ask them, but make sure that it is a trusted source. Don't go on Facebook and ask somebody to refer you, because you are going to get Peggy Sue who refers Betty Ann because Betty Ann is her friend and needs work. Facebook is not a place to find a trusted source. So make sure you're looking for somebody who uses that person. Look for other clients. Look for somebody you trust and use their referrals. You need to also consider the software they use. A lot of people don't think this. They just hire the bookkeeper and that's it. So two of the most common ones that get used out there are QuickBooks and Simply Accounting. I'm sure many of you have heard about these for your business. And a lot of bookkeepers do use one of these two programs. There are lots of other ones that are out there, but those are the two that I usually hear from the most. You need to consider what access you're going to have to your files. That's really important to know. So make sure that's one of the questions on the list that you asked. How much access will you have to the software that they use and to your company file? That's really important to know. So as an example, I use QuickBooks for my clients. I use this program because it's an easy program for them to know. It's inexpensive if they decide to go a different avenue, or if something happens and they want to take the bookkeeping over themselves. It's not an expensive program to have. They can either purchase the program or do a monthly thing. It's easy to understand the basics of how to do it. Like, it has arrows and you just follow the arrows and it tells you how to input everything. But it's also easy for them to find the reports that they want. So although I can use it to delve deeper and do more analytical stuff with the program, it's really easy for somebody who doesn't know that background of accounting, who doesn't know the background of all of the reports and features that you can use. They're still able to use it. Now, my clients have 100% access anytime, day or night, to their company file. There's always access to it so that they can look at it at any time. The only thing that they don't have is they don't have the program. So they pay me to keep hold of the license of the program. So at any time they can go purchase the program and upload their file and look at it. But I'm always willing to send them the reports whenever they need it. So they can ask me at any time and I will send them the report. And that's really important to know how much access you're going to have to your company file, because you want to make sure that if something, and we hope it never does, but if something goes south, you want to make sure that you've got all of the records of what that person has been doing for you at a moment's notice. So make sure you have that access. That's the number one thing I tell clients. You need to also, crucially important, is hire a bookkeeper who understands your business and your industry. This doesn't happen a lot, and it is something that you really need to be paying attention to. So if you hire, let's say you're in the oil field and you hire a bookkeeper who has typically done, I don't know, retail stores, clothing stores, they are not going to have any idea about your industry, how it works, what the regulations are, what you can or can't do. They might not have ever had to deal with subcontracting. They might not have ever had to deal with the different tax rates and GST rates that happen in oil field and what that all entails. So that might not be somebody that you want to hire, because they're not going to be able to fully help you to be able to maximize your cash flow. So you need to have somebody who has some experience in your industry, or at least has had previous experience doing books for somebody in your industry. So make sure they know about your business and your industry. Don't go with the lowest bid. There is truth in the statement that sometimes you get what you pay for. And just because somebody is giving you a cheaper price, sometimes their work is cheaper too. So I'm not saying that you should go with the highest priced person because they're going to give you the best work. It's not that. But don't just look at price. There's a lot more to it. One of the other things I want you to write down on your list is, how close are you to my business? So, and I mean that in actual location. That is really important to know, especially if you're a new business under 5 years. You want to have a bookkeeper who is close to your business. You want to have them be able to come in and see what it is that you're doing, how you're doing, where things are going, and to be able to meet with them. That's important. After a little while, when you sort of build up that relationship with the person, and let's say you're doing really good and you start branching out and getting, let's say you start franchising your business and you start having different locations in different states or provinces or wherever it is that you live, then it's fine to keep the same person. But initially, you want to have somebody who's close because, especially when you first start out, there's going to be a lot of questions going back and forth. Now, I know a lot of you are going, yeah, but with today's technology, we can video conference. Do they really need to be close? Yeah, they do. Especially when it's down to something as simple as being able to sit with you to ask you questions about certain financial statements that come in or government submissions. It's important to have somebody who is, I would say, within an hour from where you are, because you want them to be able to come in and see everything. Now, this will range a little bit on how close you need them, depending on what your business is. If you are completely 100% internet based business, you might not necessarily need them that close because you're completely 100% online. But if you're not, it's important to have them that where you guys can sit and actually have a conversation and talk. So try to find somebody who's local. And it does two things. It also helps the local economy, which is what we all want to do, right? You want people to support you, so you should support local too. Decide if you want a contract or a full-time person. So this goes back to what we were talking before in the full charge bookkeeper versus just like say a monthly bookkeeper. So you want to decide what it is that you want. Do you feel that your business is busy enough that you need to have a paid employee? So someone who's there every single day working on your books, getting your bottom line down for you. Or do you need somebody who maybe you don't need that much? Maybe you only need somebody who's going to be giving you monthly reports or handing stuff in. That typically is common among most companies, where most of my clients are what I would consider monthly clients. So they will send me, or I will go and see them once a month and gather all of the information that I need, and then I'll sit down and do the entry for them and provide them with reports of how they did that month versus the year and all that other stuff. So you really need to kind of take that into consideration. And it's not to say that you can't change. So definitely start with somebody who maybe is in just a contract position. And as your business grows, if you find that you want them closer and you maybe need them more, that's something that you can offer them, is maybe turn them into a full-time employee. So I would suggest starting off with a contract one, but you need to decide what's right for your business. Find someone who isn't afraid to ask questions. Your bookkeeper, when you first meet with them to kind of run over who you are, what you're about, what you're looking for, should be asking you a ton of questions. I myself have about a 2-page questionnaire that for any new client, I require them to fill out before we meet. So I actually email it to them, and it has questions like, how many owners are in your business? How long have you been in business for? Who was your previous bookkeeper? When's the last time you submitted taxes? What is it that you're looking for? Where do you think you could improve on your business? Where's your biggest downfall? How many employees do you have? What monthly reports are you looking for? And I list a bunch of them. There's a ton of questions that I have on there, but this helps me to get to know that new client to see if it's going to be a good fit. You also want to find somebody that you connect with. This is going to be a person that's going to see your company naked. You're essentially handing your company and allowing them to take all of the clothes off of it and see it naked. You want to know that this person is somebody that you can trust. Is this a person that is not going to be going out and going, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe it. I just got that new store in town and they are not doing well. Like their bank account has like $200 in it. You don't need that in a book. You don't need that in anybody. But you want to make sure that who it is that you hire is going to keep your financial statement quiet, which means, do they require you to sign a mutual confidentiality agreement? I get all of my clients to sign a mutual non-disclosure agreement, which essentially says that I will not discuss any of their financial information with anybody but who is listed on this form, and that it helps both of us out. And there's a few other, I mean, of course it's a legal document, so there's other stuff that they are not allowed to discuss, but essentially it helps both of us. So do they have something like that in place, or are they willing to sign something like that? That's really important for you and for your business, especially if you live in a smaller community. You want to make sure that what is going on in your business And even if that's successful stuff, I'm not even talking about when you're not doing well. I'm talking about when you're doing well. If you have a product that you have that you're launching out and you're spending all of this money on it, your bookkeeper knows about it, and you're about ready to launch this new innovative thing, you want to make sure that they're not telling somebody and then all of a sudden you get scooped on this $1 million idea. So make sure it's somebody that you trust. Make sure it's somebody also who doesn't mind answering your questions. You should be able to call them and say, look, you sent me this report and I just don't understand what it means. You want to make sure you have somebody who's not going to be like, really? Oh my God, how dumb are you? You want somebody who's going to go, absolutely, let's sit down, let's figure out what it is that you're not understanding and how can I help? Because that's what they're there for. They're there to help you. Financial statements can look like another language and it's hard to read them. And there's no shame in that. People go to school for years to figure out how to read them and all of that other stuff. So you want to make sure that your bookkeeper is really focusing on making sure that you understand everything that they're doing, why they're doing it the way that they're doing it, and they shouldn't be afraid to ask those questions for you. You're paying them. That's what they're there for. They should answer those questions. So now we know when it is that we're going to hire. We know how to pick one. So we're looking for key things. Do they have an attention to detail? Do they know about your business? Do they have referrals? Are they someone who's local? And are they willing to sit with you and really discuss everything? We've discovered how to pick them. We know all of that other stuff. Now, what do you look for? Here's some of the tips and tricks I need you to understand. I've seen this a lot in the over 20 years that I've been in business, and these are some of the mistakes that business owners make, and I'm going to point them out to you. It is very easy for your bookkeeper to steal money from you. I'm going to say that again. It is very easy for your bookkeeper to steal money from you. So you need to be aware of that. Now, I'm not saying that they all do, and I will be honest with you, it is rare that I have seen this, but not so rare that I haven't. You are giving somebody full access to your finances, especially if you're in an industry like retail where you have cash that is passing hands. It is important that you have that trust with that bookkeeper. It is important if any amount of money passes through their hands that you know that you can trust them. It is also crucially important for you not to vow out. What I mean by that is sometimes we get comfortable. We get comfortable with the person and we just allow them to go about their day-to-day stuff and we don't question anything. You need to keep questioning. You need to keep looking. This is your business. This is your profits. This is your livelihood. Don't be complacent in making sure that you're paying attention to what is going on, to what is happening to your money, to where it's going. This is the number one fault I see in businesses. Now, I love my clients. Over the years, I've really been able to fine-tune my bookkeeping clients down to ones that I absolutely love. And I adore them. And a lot of them have been with me for, over 10 years, most of them. And I think my youngest client I still have been with over 5 years. So they really are kind of like family to me, but I still hold myself accountable to them. I still make sure that I'm sending them reports. I still make sure that I am up to speed on what is going on. I visit all of their businesses all the time to see what's happening, what's new, what's going on. I want to know when they have new stuff coming up. I still make sure that I pay attention to their bottom line, and your bookkeeper needs to be doing that too. You should be getting emails from your bookkeeper. Let's say, for an example, I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, let's say that all of a sudden you change your telephone plan and you decide that you have a manager that you know needs a cell phone now to be in contact with. So you purchase a new plan and your phone bill goes up. If you don't receive a phone call, and you don't say anything to your bookkeeper, let's say that, okay? If you don't receive a phone call within probably a month from your bookkeeper saying, hey, I've noticed a big spike in your telephone, like there's now a new phone on there, your bill's gone up quite considerably. Are you aware of this? It's time to take a deeper look at what your bookkeeper is doing. This is something that you're paying them to do. They should be paying attention on a monthly basis when all of a sudden you have a spike in something. And they should be making you aware of that. They should be saying, hey, I really noticed that all of a sudden your telephone bill used to be $100 and now it's $200. Has something gone on? Has something changed? Or your water bill. Your water bill has usually been around $150 and I noticed that it's starting to go up. Are you aware of this? Has something changed within the business? And that's where you know that they're paying attention to what's going on and they haven't just gotten complacent in just doing the monotonous data entry, putting it in, paying the bill, and that's it. That's not what you want in a bookkeeper. You want somebody who's going to be paying attention to the expenses. You want somebody who's going to also, this is the key one, be paying attention to your receivables. If they all of a sudden notice a huge spike, they should be saying, hey, you had a great month. All of a sudden you went up like $4,000 in revenue. What did you do? Because this is going to be key to you. This is going to help you to go, you know what, we did that big promo this month. I bet you anything that's what it was. Or to just be able to vocalize that. Sometimes it's nice. We don't get that as a business owner of somebody else saying, hey, you did really great this month. Like your income was up considerably. Check out your profit. I don't know what you did, but keep doing it. You want somebody who's doing that. And that's what your bookkeeper is there for. They're there not only to notice when your expenses are going up or down, but they also want to notice when your revenue is going up and down. They're also the person who should be notifying you if something doesn't happen. Now, I know that I sometimes am guilty for this of some of my clients, but I do try to pay attention if all of a sudden I don't get something. So I have lists for all of my clients on regular bills that come in. So their gas, their electric, their, I don't know, telephone bill, that kind of stuff. And if all of a sudden one month I don't get a bill, or I don't see one come in, I will send them a message and say, hey, I didn't see a water bill this month. Maybe that's something that you want to look into so that they can see. Maybe it got lost in the mail. Maybe they didn't receive it. Maybe they forgot to send it to me, but then at least they're not late when they go to pay it. So it's important to sort of have that bookkeeper who's paying attention to those sort of things to make you aware. Because again, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for them to notice when something is awry in your financial statement. A lot of the other questions that I get from people is, if I have a bookkeeper, do I need an accountant? And the answer is really simple. Yes. Yes, you do. An accountant is important because they're the ones who, one, again, as we said, have that designation and the requirements to upkeep to continue that designation. Now, that upkeep, that continuing education is usually around wherever it is that you live and what the government requirements are. So they constantly do upgrading so that they are always compliant with what the government is. Look, we all know the governments change their mind all the time. There's constantly stuff changing. Just look at payroll. I think now we're at, every 6 months something changes and affects something. Like there's always constant updates coming out from them. So you need somebody who knows all of that. Now, a bookkeeper they might keep themselves, and they should keep themselves aware to the changes that's happening in regards to taxation or any government stuff. They should be, but they're not required to. Your accountant is the one who also is going to see the bigger picture. They're not only seeing your business, but they're seeing your personal stuff as well. So you can sort of have somebody who has that full scope view of your business and your personal life and how to merge those two to make it more profitable for you at the end of the year and to make it make more sense when you're submitting it to the government. That accountant is going to be the one that's on your side. Now, the number one tip that I want to say that I give to everybody is the person that does your books should never be the person that submits your taxes to the government. It is very important for you to have that division, because what that does is that gives you a second pair of eyes on your financial statement. That gives you another view to see what it is that your bookkeeper is doing. Are they keeping everything in check? Look, you can't know everything that is supposed to be out there, but paying that extra money to have the accountant submit your taxes for you so you know it's being done right, you know you have them behind you should the government have any questions about what's being submitted, and they also are verifying all of the work that your bookkeeper is doing for you. They are verifying for you that, yeah, everything that they're putting in makes sense. When you hire this accountant, do the same techniques that you do while you hire your bookkeeper. Make sure it's somebody that you trust. Make sure it's somebody that you've had a referral to. Make sure it's somebody who knows what they're doing. Make sure they have attention to detail. Make sure they're asking you a ton of questions. Make sure they have experience in your industry. That's just as important with an accountant as it is with a bookkeeper. Do they know about your industry? Have they worked in it before? It's important because there's lots of different avenues that they need to be made aware of. Now, if they don't have experience in your industry, how willing are they to do the research? And are they asking the right questions of you? You want to make sure you have that if you're kind of going with somebody who maybe doesn't necessarily have as much experience in your industry. Or do they have experience in something that at least is similar? Because that's important. Numbers are numbers, but it's important to understand the who, what, and why behind them before they just plunk them in. That can make a huge, huge difference. So I'll give you an example. If somebody wasn't in the industry, we used to own a franchise. And part of the stipulations of us is that we were required to purchase uniforms. And there were certain requirements of things that we needed to purchase in regards to dollies and trays and stuff like that. There were certain requirements that they had. So this stuff we were required to buy. It was sort of like a must-have list of things. When we needed somebody who understood franchises and some of the requirements that were there, because it was important to have those expenses written off properly so we got the full benefit of having to spend that extra money on items that we could have, just purchased elsewhere. So it was really important for us to have somebody who understood our industry, who had worked in this before and understood what the requirements were of us and how we could use that to our benefit at tax time. So make sure you have somebody, again, who understands your business or industry that you're in, or who is willing to ask enough questions and do enough research. And make sure you're staying on top of them, that they are doing that. There's no shame in asking your accountant, and they should have no issue with sending you their updated designation saying, yes, this person is what they say they are. Do some research on them. There's no harm in doing a little bit of research and making sure they are who they are. And they should have no problem in sending you that information as well, because if that's who they are, they should have no problem backing that up. So make sure you're asking questions and make sure that they're asking questions too. And again, make sure that the person doing your books isn't the same person who is doing your accounting. Now you can have different people in the same firm. That is okay. But I would make sure it's not the same person who's submitting it. So, because you do want that other eye just kind of taking a look over the stuff to make sure that all of your I's are getting dotted and all of your T's are getting crossed the way that they need to. That works out the most beneficial to you. One of the other key things is find somebody who can say no. Now, I know some of you might be like, why would I want to do that? I want to hire a yes man. No, you don't. You want somebody who's going to say no. So I'll give you an example. I had a client who had rental properties who said to me that they wanted to write off their boat. Now they had they had residential rental properties, and the average rent was around $1,000, and they bought this huge speedboat, and they wanted to write it off because they said, no, we take clients out on it. We should be able to write it off. And I said, yeah, right. First of all, one, I've never been out on this boat, and two, there's no flippin' way you're writing it off. And there is no way that anybody in the government's going to believe that you take rental clients out on this boat. So no, you're not writing it off. Nice try. But I was able to have that tough conversation with them. I was able to say, no, I'm not writing that off for you. I'm not willing to do that. It's wrong. Um, and that's important. It's important that your bookkeeper has that moral compass, because here's what's going to happen. If I would have said, oh yeah, sure, we'll try to write it off, they could have it could have flagged in the government, and then they could have gotten audited. Because let me tell you, if one thing rings out, if somebody has tried to write off one thing that you're like, really, you're going to try to write off a boat when you have rental property, that makes me go, what else are they hiding? And I dive deep, and I would dive into every single receipt. So that one little indiscretion can really cause a lot of problems down the road, because it sort of puts that radar up of going, if they're willing to do this, what else were they willing to do? So you want to make sure that you have somebody who's willing to sort of go, nope, not a good idea. And hold you accountable, or hold you to a higher standard. Because look, as business owners, yes, of course, you're going to try to find every single thing you can to write off. But you need somebody who's going to go, oh, okay, you're pushing it a little bit. Like, just calm down with writing off the cleaning supplies there. So make sure you have somebody who's willing to call you out. That's important. Finding a bookkeeper is no different than finding an employee. Make sure that you're writing a list. Take that list that you've written of the tips that I give you, and make sure that you're asking the tough questions of them. They should be willing to answer. And never, ever, ever trust somebody enough to have a blank check. So many of my clients have signed checks and just handed them to me and said, here, just in case you need them. Now, I love that they trust me that much, but I never accept them. Don't trust anybody that much. Make sure you know where your money is going, and make sure that you don't get too relaxed to the point where you're not looking at those statements that get sent to you monthly, that you're not reviewing them. Look at each line item, see where your expenses are going. Ask for a month-to-month comparison. They're easy. Most programs can just spit them out, where you can see every single month and what percentage it is that you grew or shrank by in each individual line. Make sure that you're paying attention to that. This is your bread and butter. You need to be paying attention to these statements. So although it can be kind of a daunting task, and although it can be something that not everybody loves to do, there are people out there like me who just love doing that data entry, and we want to help you. The other thing is that find a bookkeeper that is excited for you to succeed. I love it when my clients succeed. That is my golden ticket. If they succeed, I succeed. If they grow their business, they need me more, which means I'm making more money. So I do everything in my power to help them become more successful, because the more successful they become, the more successful I become, because hopefully we've built that trust and that relationship, and they take me on the journey with them. So find a bookkeeper that has that love, that passion, that desire for your business to grow. You will find you have much more time to focus on those areas of your business that you are really good at. If books aren't your thing, figure out what your thing is. You didn't start this business to sit behind a desk and data entry, or unless that is your business, but most of us don't. So make sure that you're putting people in place to allow you to do what it is that you do best. Make your business grow. So make sure you do your research. Make sure you interview these people. Make sure you find out what they're about, and make sure that the person you hired is as interested in your business and your growth and your industry, so that they can help you be the most successful that you want to be. And have fun with it. Make sure that you say, I can't talk right now, I got to go see my bookie. It's more fun that way. Don't forget to head over to our Facebook page, Fox Talks Business. You will see the post for this episode. And if you have any comments or questions, make sure you write them. We want to hear from you. If your question is a little bit more private, you can always email us at foxtalksbusiness@gmail.com, and I will try to get to everybody's questions as soon as I can. I got a lot from our episode collaboration, not competition, and I'm still trying to get through them, but I do try to reply to everybody. So let me know what it is that you're thinking. Let me know some struggles that you've had or some inquiries that you have, and I'm more than happy to answer for them because there is no such thing as a stupid question as one that isn't asked. So get out there and do what you do best in your business. And don't forget to have fun because if you're not having fun, why the hell are you doing it? This is Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business After Hours.